I thought I'd do a bit of you know, the Emperor Star Wars type theme again to illustrate that, I made that type of style of video once or twice before, and, I don't have a problem making this style of video. Uh, I don't know, some people would think, you must be an idiot to make a video like this. Why don't you, you know, play cool and quiet and and just make things easy for yourself, because obviously the topics I'm gonna bring up are gonna stir up a bit of controversy. So, it doesn't really matter that I'm wearing, a black hood with the Freemason symbol on it. Um, in the background, it's still the same thing. If you have the proper video editing technology, you can illuminate the video, so it doesn't really matter. But, it's kind of fun to make videos like this anyway. Ever we not be allowed to think that, free will, intellectual creation of new ideas and that sort of thing, even if they are additions to, concepts that already exist, or, whatever. Anyway, I want to talk about um, my cult of personality. There'd be many, many who would deny it if they had even engaged in the conversation to begin with. Nobody talks to me. I mean, like, nobody. It's sent to commentary, involuntary celibate, everything. And it's like, you know, an honest question is, what in the fuck happened that I didn't know about? Because clearly a lot of things did, and it's, kind of like, I think it's a negative cult of personality. I've said that before. And in the realm of Star Wars, there are the Sith and the Jedi. With the Star Wars films I was more familiar with, 4 through 6, the Empire was established, and that's the way it was, and the rebellions were the rebels and the rebellions they were causing, were fighting the evil empire. These newer generations are at best more familiarized with um, the remakes, no, not the remakes, the prequels and the edited versions of the original, because they've changed the audio on some of the things, and them doing the simple thing of changing the sound of the voice of Boba Fett drastically reduced the popularity of that character through a generational thing. I looked at it differently. Boba Fett had a kick-ass voice when I heard him first of all, and then they went ahead and ruined it for whatever reason by putting someone who had an inadequate voice for doing the job. Um, okay. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that the Jedi believe that they're in power. They're not necessarily the good guys. I mean, they were, part of a whole bunch of bullshit. They're a metaphor, caricature of the real government. And they are cunts, but, obviously in a different way. And, in fact, it is the Sith that are truly in control. And the same thing goes with my negative cult personality. This I know very well. I spent many, many horrible nights clasping my throat, not being able to sleep, and that was a physical thing. That was not a psychological thing. That was because of medication I had to take. Um, I feel like I was, picked out perhaps even before I was born. I mean, maybe that's not true. but it could be. Um, I am the most handsome of my brothers, so take it for what you will. Um, yeah, because obviously, from the point of view of the cult of personality, which I believe has surrounded me, the mob, I will call them, could have picked the easier route and went quickly dismiss him, don't watch in on him, and, you know, just send a wench his way and shut him up. That, would have made a lot of sense. I don't know why someone didn't come up with that concept other than potential greed from their part and Sith-like mentality. Um, doesn't make sense. But, I mean, there was a time where my belief structure, everything I've accomplished, and, what had happened to me and how I overcame that without being a whiny little bitch about it. Um, you know, um, there was a time where obviously someone had decided that that was, a thing that needed to happen. And it was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't know. The Sith are mysterious people. And quite often they have nefarious reasons for why they do things. I have, through my own research, and the fact that sometimes the best learners are the ones who do not have their own physical walls indoctrinated into them by either individuals or society. They are the true thinkers, the free thinkers, and don't think it's some smelly hippie that is really a free thinker, because they're not. They're in their little parameters of understanding, and that's about as far as they go usually. Um, for me, with some of the things, uh, I've surmised, guessed about what is actually happening in the world and what we're not totally cognizant of here in our little bubble in this massive country with very few people in it. Some people go, "Ooh, you're starting to sound paranoid, schizophrenic even," and it's like it could just be that you would say that anyway because you're an asshole. You don't like people thinking things that you don't agree with. However, I don't think it was by chance that I took to the internet and making YouTube videos. I think that the mental health system um took a look at my situation and went, if we remove random social events from this individual's life and create other obstructional, problems for this individual, we can get him to voluntarily go on the internet, take a chance, and speak his mind, or I would have, curled up into a ball and became a whiny little bitch, which I like to think I'm not a whiny little bitch, but here I am talking into a video camera at 1:54 a.m. in the dark, wearing a Freemason collar that looks like one that would be on a dog. Still a cool thing to have, but it is what it is. Um, okay. Um, I came up with radical ideas in my YouTube videos. You may watch them. What I said, I, more or less have said things similar along the lines before as, well, I would have made it better, but, you know, as you're making things, obviously you look back and you go, well, I could have done that better. but more or less my same thought train is exactly the same. Obviously, I know more than I did before, but yeah. Um, there is a sprig of evil that I can detect. That it's not as though I couldn't have detected it before, but yeah, even in my earlier videos, I did talk of the dark side and things like that a little bit. Throw an idea out there, see what happens. And for me, it meant silence. Silence in the way of no intellectual ideas other than from people who are themselves in their own bubbles. And obviously, this is problematic for brain development. But I worked hard. I kind of grew into this role because I was raised to be antisocial, and I was angry as a young man, but not really angry at anything specifically. I mean, I didn't like Asian people, but that was about as far as it went. In fact, that is as far as it went. Um, and the thing is, it's still true today. I don't particularly like them. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, individual to individual, that's different, but uh, you know, it, people can't help but think in their own thought pattern when are demonstrated with the facts of life. And someone who knows more than you, in most cases, will always try to disguise, conceal, and deny the existence of the facts of life from people. As an Asian person, I wouldn't blame them for not liking the white man, in the sense that throughout the histories, white men have enslaved the Asian population, have humiliated the continent of Asia, and are now in a position where the most dominant Asian power has always been China. Whether what's going on within China itself is completely irrelevant. The country as a whole is the most powerful one in Asia, but not the most powerful empire in the world. Not because they don't have the intellect to exercise power, it's because we've been watching them a long time. And we got territorial advantages, resource advantages, um, varying different empires around the world do not like them. In fact, it's a universal thing that nobody likes. The People's Republic of China, very, very universal. Don't ask the Indian government. Don't ask the Russian government. Doesn't matter what the television tells you. Oh, Russia and China are joining in, teamed up, um, you know, type scenarios of World War III. It's a load of baloney. Load of fucking baloney. Russia's an independent country. Well, that in the sense that it snatches up satellite states, much like the United States does with countries like South Korea, Japan, and parts of Africa. Europe's on board. Wouldn't really call them a satellite country, continent. But some people would differ in appearance, in opinion. Unfortunately, um, there are weapons of war that people do not know about. And this is actually a good thing because it's not an easy thing to want to even think about, but it's in a sense easier for me because everything is in theory hypothetical for me, but um, the evidence you don't see does speak for itself. And as a losing superpower, um, the Chinese Communist Party grows desperate as anyone who follows up anything to do with that uh, country altogether. Poor human rights records, questionable business practices, military expenditures beyond all measure, uh, general evil, general evil that goes on within that country that you don't really see so refined over here because the desperation is not within our governments. Our governments have everything they need. Well, not everything, but mostly what they need. Whereas Chinese Communist Party, they're kind of on a boat that's slowly sinking, and eventually it's just gonna sink into the ocean. They won't be a superpower anymore. So at some point they're gonna have to make a fucking move. And the thing is, okay, fine. They can't move large numbers of soldiers without, satellites in the sky seeing them. Um, they can't actually detonate any of their WMDs because that would cause a retaliatory action, even by countries that it's not aimed at. Simply China using WMDs is justification enough for countries like Russia, the European Union, most certainly United States, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, any of those countries, Australia, to in turn use um, uh, uh, you know, weapons of mass destruction. And everyone goes, well, that's great. That means they'll never get used. And as I spoke of before, there is such a concept as limited warfare. Uh, it's a big deal if the world's most destructive weapons were used. World War III in that instance would last probably a couple hours, and that's it, and everything would be destroyed. But the anger is still there. The hatred is still there. And, I guess you got to get props for the people who try to put a smiley face on things, but that enables action to not be done to thwart such uh, evil organizations. Um, and what I mean by that is, the tourism industry. Go see the world. Live your life and have fun outside of your mundane, humdrum, everyday existence at your workplace, for example. That's all good and well, but that's lipstick on a pig. That's disguising bad things around the world. And, this I'll get back to how Asian people have a right to dislike the white man if given further facts. And there isn't really any remedy to it other than ignorance. Um, and the same thing goes for white people against Asian peoples. And I will get to that. Okay, so everyone knows most things that are made of plastic or whatever's are made in China. And, just piece of crap things that, are actually bad for the environment in the immediate surroundings via factory, via return pollution, and every other means. Um, so, the West is benefiting from their misery because they're not exactly paying them a lot of money for the stuff. That's why we get it so cheaply. Um, and you've seen the state of these people, and some of them, there's 1.5 billion Asian people in China. There's millions more outside of China. And most of them are in the positions they are in, as are most people in this world, truly by circumstance, just because they are who they are, where they are, when they are, all that sort of stuff. So, in fact, they will see people who think, if they, had access to such information, they will see people who are in no way no different from themselves, to put it lightly, in a spot of bother. And the thought of that could be me, and the Western powers would not care, would enforce policies that would further my detriment, and no one's coming to save me. Think about that. Pretty fucking scary shit. And that's pretty much the same thing for any individual on this fucking planet. And don't think because you got money and you got power that you're above all that. Because you're not. You could just end up in a different world of shit. Like me, for example. I don't have to worry about food being on the table. Don't have to worry about housing. I got a job that pays all right, that sort of stuff. Everything's going sort of all right. I mean, I got a sore throat, which is part of my piss off that I don't like. I don't have a social life, and I most certainly don't get to touch any, nicely shaped tits anytime. So yeah, that's, the downside of being an involuntary celibate sent to Coventry. And I believe I was sent here to do a job. Or at least that's what we'll call the Freemasons, Illuminati, whatever the hell you want to call them, would want me to do. Except, I'm not going to do it. So that's, I believe they're expecting me not to have what would be deemed as a salty personality. And that's a very dynamic word, so don't take simply what the dictionary has to say on that word, because it's not exactly true. Because the thing is, a lot of people who are denied certain things in life, for me, involuntary celibate, sent to Coventry, yada yada, sore throat, chronic sore throat, no real, people to talk to about my sore throat. In fact, it was rather dismissed. In fact, I was treated rather shabbily about that. But I chalk it up to the evil of the world and people being stupid. That's what I chalk it up to. If you don't mind, if I just stretch my back out for a second. The thing is, when people are pushed into the dark, it almost seems tempting to, when they leave the dark, if they're so inclined, if they don't just wither away and disappear, they want to be bright. They want to be vibrant. They want to be, the life of the party, make up for lost time and all that other bullshit. For one thing, I don't fucking believe I lost time. Things were inconvenient for me, and I didn't like certain things, and things pissed me off. I think most people have gone through things like that, but not the same things. There's different things that pissed them off. Obviously, me not getting any pussy for 32, almost 33 years is a significant reason to be pissed off. However, I have some pluses, so, we'll work on it. That's what we'll do. But anyway, for other people, the temptation to come out as, colorful and cheerful and, according to today's modern, media, social climate, whatever you want to call it, there are a lot of people who are just coming out as freaks. Me, I'm not a freak. At least I'm not. At least I like to think I'm not one. I mean, I guess it depends who you ask. If you ask some stupid, ugly-looking troll with blue hair, then you might get a different answer. But if you ask, a guy like me about hockey, about interesting stuff, about cool stuff, about drinking beer. Speaking of which, have a beer. You get a different answer. And I had made memes. I don't know how widespread they are of visualizing what exactly the evils of the world are. I didn't go into any details or anything like that. I didn't draw pictures or anything like that. I put a collage of things that were already there. And I explained things and, so any idiot could understand. And there is such thing as the white slave trade. And I happen to be a member. Oh, I'm not a trader. No, 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 no. I am a white slave. And I don't mean, I got a job that pays slightly better and I'm stuck there because I'm too lazy to go find a better job. I can't go find a better job. That won't make my sore throat go away. That'll just be a new set of bullshit. With the sore throat coming along with me. It was artificially induced by medical uh, prescriptions, prescribed by professionals. The only thing they didn't prescribe to me was alcohol. That was what they're trying to get rid of, but they can't take it away from me. That's my stuff. And, yeah. Yeah, the white slave trade. Okay. Part of that is that white people were snatched up one way or the other and kind of just went deeper into Mordor to the point where they can't leave. And in particular, the Chinese Communist Party didn't just kill them or anything like that. No, that would be too easy. They gave them just enough will to live, forced them to breed, presumably with whatever's, and they've created a nationality of white people within the Republic of China that is never talked about in regular media. It's never talked about. And there's reasons for that, but the problem is it's not a difficult concept to understand, and people go, "Ew, why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense." You don't know. Pulls on the heartstrings if people knew about it, and even the most evil of bastards and bitches in the Western Empire, believe it or not, they actually do have heartstrings somewhere. Some of them, anyway. I'm not going to say all of them because that wouldn't be true, but some of them actually do. And, it's demoralizing seeing that, especially if your brain's not trained or developed or conditioned to understand what's going on. And that is a tool of propaganda. Take away your will to fight. Take your will to see things from your point of view. And I had to make the point on social media that, there were 3 or 4 goons who were heckling me because I had opinions that had contradicted theirs. And I'm not going to say theirs were wrong. They're different, and I believe my opinion was better than theirs. However, they didn't agree with that, and I had to make the point of saying, like, look, Westerners over here, we don't have open dialogue with the Republic of China. We don't get phone calls from India. We get phone calls from Indian people in Canada. We get conversations with Asian peoples in Canada. It's a security risk to have open dialogue between continents and countries and rivaling superpowers. But the deception needs to be there so that the simple-minded simply go along with what is said and don't ask questions. However, again, this is not a hard concept to understand. People just mostly don't think about it. Most people don't, or at least don't make videos about it like I made. but I've had a sore throat for 7 years, so it doesn't really matter. I'm already ankle deep in this quagmire as it is. So how like if I'm a reasonable person, how could it get worse? Like really? Uh, okay. Yes, the white slave trade. So there actually is a nationality of white slaves in China. They may have grabbed a whole pile of American soldiers in Vietnam. I mean, China was next door neighbors to Vietnam. Shortly after the Vietnam War, they invaded invaded Vietnam. And people go, no, that was about the Vietnamese and their independence. No, that's not what those kind of wars are about. It's about what superpower is giving the orders. And it wasn't going to be the United States because, actually China's in Vietnam, that part of Vietnam is not actually suited for the type of defense strategies the Americans had at the time. So, the Americans weighed out their situation, going, "This is costing a lot of money. We're losing public support. They had a whole lot to begin with. We're not looking too good because of a few things that happened in the Vietnam War, um, and it's our best interest to pull out. We'll just say that the Vietnamese won. Meanwhile, they're still third world country living in a shithole, and most of their people have suffered from that war in one way or another. And they never made an official counterattack. So, you can say you won, but that's not the same thing as actually winning because it doesn't matter what you think. And this is important because yeah, I believe they grabbed a number of white American men and simply stated that they became property of the Chinese Republic and, were used for such purposes as making propaganda films to be tortured on video camera in all sorts of horrible ways. And this is done to illustrate the power of the Chinese Communist Party and what they can do, and in them doing so, undermining American intellectualism by having the American leaders act rather irrational, causing disturbances within the country because of it. Because, like obviously back in the 80s, anyone who lived through that time, I was too young, but anyone who lived through that time went, the government was kind of stupid in a lot of ways. They weren't, really that intelligent. And the mistakes they made back then, they wouldn't make again, but the damage is already done. And, the thing is, they didn't understand the psychology of Asia. And when they're doing something that pisses you off and it makes you angry and you can't do anything about it, that's when they start laughing. That's when they get off on that. I call it, the Deadpool philosophy. I don't like Deadpool, don't like Ryan Reynolds, but he's there for a reason, despite it all. And it's not the easiest thing to explain to people, but it is, an effective psychological tool. That's the word I'm using, effective. I'm not saying good or the appropriate thing to doing. I'm saying it's simply effective. Because nobody wants to lose to a Ryan Deadpool type character and have him laughing at you. I wouldn't want to lose to someone like that, Ryan Reynolds, douchebag. That would be beyond embarrassing. Uh, but yeah, so anyway, um, you may have noticed in the media that there's been a very, very stiff anti-white male in particular, but anti-white as a whole, but anti-white male in particular stance on our culture. Like, for some reason, white people are so much worse because we're winning for some reason. We're worse people throughout history, and it's like, no, you people were a bunch of trash as well. And obviously, people got to clean up their act and not act like trash. But that's, I don't know, it could take time. And yeah, you may have noticed that trend in social media and media as a whole and social climate and everything. And the reason is the heartstrings. The guilt is there, but it's other factors that are more dominant in the sway of political policy. And that is what they're doing to those white people in Asia that aren't talked about in today's media. And as I was saying earlier, how some people, when they're confined, when they're restricted, when things have been taken away from them that are normal to other people, it has a psychological effect. And some people, when they enter the world, they want to see color, they want to see vibrancy, they want everything to be alive because they were just so bored in the state they were in. And I would be too, I suppose, if I wasn't so not bored. I mean, I have plenty of things to keep myself interested, like the power of my mind, for example. But it's not everyone's got a brain, or a very good one. So sometimes uh, the theme in particular Canadian politics, but also in United States politics and media, pop culture, and all that kind of shit, is men coming out as homosexuals, and doing the man bun thing, and the colored hair, and the all the horrible stuff that's makes me cringe. Um, that's what they're supposed to be to really have a taste of anything in life, as opposed to living in a dungeon, for example, um, or some other horrible circumstance. But really, what it is it's a big emasculation of men and ridicule of them, even though it's not said by our government and it's not said by the Chinese Republic either, of white men, making them look like pussies, submissive, all these horrible things. But it is their only taste of freedom, the entry of new ideas, and all that other sort of stuff. And these are the people that have been held in captivity in Asia for a long time. So guys like me who have been put on the television because I was manipulated. I didn't understand, when I first started making YouTube videos, that this is what it was about and how obsessive compulsive it is. God damn, do I hate obsessive compulsive. It's an irritating fucking thing. I mean, obviously, there's some things you've got to be obsessive compulsive about, but you don't have to be an obsessive compulsive person. Fuck's sakes, there's a difference. But anyway, um, me standing up, being a proud white male. Excuse me, am I not allowed to be that anymore? Well, there are people telling me I'm not allowed to be that anymore, but I don't listen to them much. I don't have much choice because I hear murmurs every now and then. But they're not very smart, and I know they're going, ooh, but there's so many of us, and when we start talking to them, amplify, calibrate the pressure on him, he'll fold, he'll realize where he's wrong. Ha! That's where you have made a mistake. I don't believe your persuasion tactics to be very good. They haven't been so far. I haven't been impressed by the persuasion tactics of the masses for a very long time. I simply ignored it because they didn't want to hear my version, so I went, well, fuck you. It doesn't matter what you think. I'll just do what I'm gonna do, and it doesn't matter what you think. Um, yeah, the problem is me standing up for being proud white male. I like my sort of things. Uh, I guess you could take concepts from I'm an Asshole, written by Dennis Leary, performed by him, and that's essentially who I am. The problem is people standing up, from the ground up, came out of nowhere and obtained power. Negative cult of personality. I wish it was a positive one, but it's not. It's a negative one. I can't help that. It makes things harder for people on the other side of the world because we live in an ever connected world. And there are reasons why there is an obsessive compulsive. This is the way society is. This is the way society is. Do not contradict what society is. It's always been that way, but more so now, and in a profoundly stupid way, so that what you see is not always what it is, and that's most certainly clear in social media and regular media. But it does have a manipulative effect to people who are simply recently joining this sort of thing. I'm glad I was born in the age I was born in, before social media, before all this other stuff. And I have a different picture of what things are. And because of my unique experiences, I am able to think of things that other people would not have been able to do unless somebody has been bothered to watch 41, 46 seconds of my video here describing how they can think differently so that they don't look like a jackass. If they look like one, I don't know. And, you know, I use the Jinx character as kind of a metaphor caricature of this said white people. And I've made mention of this in other videos as well, maybe one or other two videos. But she comes out as colorful, vibrant. Um, from what I know, she's a sociopathic assassin or something like that. I don't know. I didn't look too much into it. I couldn't be bothered. It's not my thing. There's just those red eyes that it reminded me of, just from my experiences, I saw something different from that propaganda picture. But anyway, um, me obtaining a better lifestyle, getting the things I want, it's capitalist nature. Somebody else has to, somewhere along the lines. I'm not directly taking it from them, but because of the way social structures work, that's what's happening. So people, white people in Asia, who are captives there, um, when white men in particular rise up and are proud white men within Western power countries on the world stage, it takes away power from the white people who have not lived the most comfortable of lives and are only just getting a taste of what it is. Because there are white people out there with personalities, based on their life experiences. And, if manipulated at a young enough age, anybody could be programmed into thinking anything. So it would be easy to go, oh, I'd never, run around in a pink tutu and put drag queen makeup on and all that kind of horrible stuff. I wouldn't do that. However, if manipulated at a young enough age, who knows? Physical stimuli, conditioned stimuli, all that sort of stuff. It's pretty heinous. Not pretty heinous, heinous, simply heinous. And yeah, I draw my power from my counterparts in other parts of the world, from power being taken away from them because I believe my situation to be right. I believe that I do have counterparts in other parts of the world who obviously chose different paths and make YouTube videos and things like that. And, you know, if I win, that means they have to lose. So obviously they want to win so that I lose. And I look like a spoiled Westerner. There are people out there who don't care that I have a sore throat. They want me to have a sore throat the rest of my life. I did just make a video that I did not upload saying my sore throat is going away, and it is. But that might be the slow bit of power being taken away from counterparts in other parts of the world. The difference is Schadenfreude. I don't derive pleasure in taking away somebody else's right to exist because the power structure, wherever they are, dictates that in this cosmic game of what is the personality of the white male, or the white society or the Western society, that this personality is emerging as a dominant one. And people who lose in that kind of respect typically don't take it well. A lot of people don't take losing very well. I got the shit kicked out of me by mental health for a very fucking long time. And if my sore throat went away, I learned absolutely nothing that I wouldn't have learned anyway. So, this sort of new understanding of what is deemed as normal person way of thinking, the acceptance of whatever weird, bizarre, fucked up things, and all that sort of stuff. It's not actually winning. The media would depict it as it's winning, but it's not really. If you look around, most people don't go about doing such activities, or if they do, it's either because they're looking to get with women or party scene or something like that. And it doesn't necessarily mean what the media says it means. And yeah, when you go on the internet, I got no guarantees this isn't on some Japanese cafe, a 24-hour cafe. It probably is. I have no idea how many views it gets or anything like that of that nature. And I'll say my points, and they can throw whatever insults they want. There could be 100 of them throwing insults at me. And as I said before, people being heckled by 3 or 4 people, and it's different. Being heckled in person is a lot different than on a computer screen. It's also a lot different when there's physical stimuli involved. Cross that bridge when I get there, obviously. If there's that many people around me that don't like my opinion and like treating me like trash and are conspiring ways to continue treating me like trash and treat me like trash in different ways in the future, or stomp out, whatever plans I have of my little bit of a pushback going, hey, society, fuck you. You caused me a lot of grief for the bullshit, evil of the world fucking reason. It's the Chewbacca case. Oh, well, white man did this 20 years ago and got away with it. Who cares if one white guy gets it fucking pretty bad? Nobody cares. We'll just call him a bunch of names and shit like that. Hey, fuck you. And, I gotta figure a way out of this fucking problem. Because this negative cult of personality is really fucking pissing me off. I could be scoring chicks right now, but I can't because that's a whole other bag of bullshit right there. But I think predominantly what the issue is that there's rivaling factions that like me for different reasons, and with women mostly it's the same reason to an extent, and they get quite jealous, egotistic, and they especially don't want to lose to their enemies and things like that. I understand, but There are women I haven't even met yet. Very few women I know that I'd be pissed off if they were being treated like shit by some bitch. With their concept being, well, he doesn't really know anyone right now, and in a lot of ways, I don't. Therefore, what we do now, and when we're nice to him in the future, which is what they want to do, it doesn't matter. And especially, it's easy to come along and pick out somebody's mistakes, but if they're, first in line or whatever, then usually, they've got some decency to them. And yeah, like there have been some people who have taken care of my case who have made mistakes. And although I'm not happy about those mistakes, I don't actually trust the people that have come along to fix those mistakes, supposedly, and push the people who they perceived as fucking up out of the way. I don't like that because, obviously that's not entirely what I think or like. So, I'd like to solve this problem. So, that gets back into the reality of I don't believe in randomness. I don't believe in, oh, well, this is a fun, flowers and butterflies, type scenery when, a chick finally does show up. I don't believe in that. I go, every single fucking chick that comes around is going to be a fucking plant. Or they're unknowing and they're nobodies anyway. One or the other, but one thing is for certain, no chicks come and talk to me. But you know what? I have emerged from the darkness and I have been more noticeable than what people keep telling me. They keep telling me you're nobody, nobody knows who you are, blah 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 blah. And it's just not true. Don't do what modern media does. I'm walking around in a Boston Bruins jersey in Vancouver cheering for the Boston Bruins. I mean, I get the occasional person saying something to me, but people aren't that civilized, and not much has happened, and that's artificially induced. I know it is, and there's just things that happen, and very few things that happen, and usually anything that happens more than once of a similar type of story, the next time around, it's kind of a dumbed down version, so the original story sounds stupid, but it's still the same fucking problem. I could give you an example, but social media is not the best place to tell people that. So, if you ask me in person, I'd tell you. But anyway, um, yeah, it's the battle of the wills. There's absolutely no way I'm losing to these people, and not only losing, but being swept under the rug, forgotten about, and everything bad that happened to me. It's like, well, whatever. He was a white guy. A lot of bad things have happened to a lot of people, and we can't spend the time to feel bad for him. It's like, you don't have to feel bad for me, but you do have to understand that you're going to lose. That's what you got to understand. Because I'm not losing. I mean, it wouldn't be that big a deal, of course, before if I said people weren't so obsessive compulsive. People didn't make decisions that were pretty detrimental towards me. And had this wild idea that I was just going to accept it, and then they were going to toss me, the shitty deal that they were going to toss me. They were going to toss me a really shitty deal and expect me to accept it. And I'm like, actually, I have some cards in my deck that say that I don't have to accept that deal, and fuck you, I want a way better deal than that. So you get to the drawing board and you remove all the stuff that's blatant bullshit that nobody in their right fucking mind would ever agree to. And this is, individuals like myself entering the social scene. And I ain't a power control freak or anything like that, but obviously there are things I'm not putting up with. And I don't believe the philosophies that exist out in the world are competent enough to defeat me in an argument in this such context. There's some things, I've chosen to put a blind eye to ignore right now because it's not beneficial to my situation, and it's not that I'm cold on the subject. It's like I've got problems of my own, so I'm working on my thing. And I got things to think about. So, the problems of others, I admit I'm not thinking about them. Similarly, how they don't think about mine in their situation. So that would be hypocritical for them to turn around, and it is hypocritical for them to turn around and look at me going, I'm supposed to care about society's problems here and there. And it's just like, hold on, those are your fucking problems. I'm dealing with my fucking problems right now. And all I got when I go to fucking talk to people is people going, oh, blah, 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 take your medication, blah, 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 blah. How about you're an asshole who would say that no matter what I said or did? You're just going to say that over and over and over again until you get your way, but it's not going to work because I know how you talk. I know how you think. I don't know what you're thinking, but I know how you think. And that's very important because you're not going to be able to tell me what to do, no matter what you do. I mean, obviously, it'd suck if a few goons came around and beat the shit out of me again, but as far as changing my mindset, unless they perform a lobotomy on me, that's just not going to happen. Not by the way they talk. They gotta ramp it up a bit if they're gonna think they're gonna persuade me into fucking doing anything. And that would mean them getting nastier because I am a cult of personality. I am an individual who some people follow, some people believe some of the things I say, and that contradicts what other people believe and who they are as people and things like that. And as I said, I don't believe in Schadenfreude. I don't take pleasure in my benefit being someone else's detriment. However, especially if they think the opposite way in regards to me, then get the hell out of my way. I got places to be. And, we're playing at high stakes here. So, obviously I have reasons to be concerned about things, but you'd be surprised at what you're not concerned about really when you've had a sore throat for 7 years. I mean, that takes a lot. I never gave up. Never gave up. Never will give up. I'll keep going because I know I'm going to win this in the end. Play this stupid game and get out of it. I hate being fucking called names by people, even when they know themselves it isn't true, but it serves their fucking agenda by calling me that. And even if it is for the sweetest of reasons, like some chick really likes me and she wants me all for herself, so she'll do horrible things so that I never know the truth and things like that. I'm sorry, that's very considerate of you, and I'll be thinking about you, but I kinda don't want to be treated like an idiot and look like an idiot on the world stage. You know what I mean? Like, can't you trust me to be a decent human being? Okay, don't trust me to be a decent human being, but at least, don't make me look like a chump in front of people who I shouldn't have to look like a chump in front of. Fucking despicable people. And, that's getting back into the real world and, that sort of thing. And whoring around, being a male whore, is not on the game plan. So many things can go fucking wrong with that, even though that's also not something I want to do anyway. I mean, there are going to be things that are like, oh, whatever. But there are going to be other things that are like, I'm not doing that. So it's really a balancing act. And if I play my cards right, everything should turn out fine. But obviously, I see great potential in my YouTube channel to make money. I get to get with women. That would be nice. Obviously there are women yet to meet that could be nice people. I will decide that for myself when I see them. If I see them, ever. If I don't just remain in this intellectual box for the rest of my fucking life with a sore throat. Who knows? The world is really that evil. I really could end up in a fucking box for the rest of my life, a social economic box where I don't really get to enjoy things of life because the people who wish to give me those things in life do not have the power or authority to do so because I'm valuable as a person uh, where I am exactly. And I don't agree with that. It's a bunch of bullshit. I just started playing with my lighter here. I don't know why. Pretty cool, eh? Auto centers. I think it's cool anyway. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for people who are going to be proven wrong in the ideological circles that there are on what normal society should look like. I don't derive any pleasure from that. However, I'm also not going to lose to them. And, I know that's difficult for people to understand, but, sorry. What other people do is not my business, but what I do and, how I'm treated are my business. So, I don't like the way I'm being treated. Don't like it. I haven't liked it for a long time, but, gotta work a way around that. And I wish people wouldn't have assertions about me because, some things uh, you know, uh, could explain if somebody would simply fucking ask, if they were so inclined to ask. What's the answer to this question? How do you feel about that? That kind of shit. I'll tell them. I'll straight up tell them. I have no reason to lie. Anyway, you know, it's fairly, it's getting entangled in the web of the evil of the world, and there's a big hideous spider in the middle. Or, there's a big hideous spider in the middle of every world power. Canada's no different. There's a big hideous spider in the middle. And I don't mean Justin Trudeau, even though he's not as handsome as a lot of people think he is. Anyway, I've talked long enough. It's getting into the night, 2:47 a.m. I'm going to down some beers, maybe listen to an audiobook. And, I think this has been a very important conversation, and I only wish I had somebody to talk to who would actually talk back because it would be helpful. I can make better videos that way. Anyway, have a good night, people. And, yeah, the people fucking me up. Fuck off. Get away from me. Fuck off. Can't stand it. Anyway.